What is going on with psychopaths in our country? I don't like it when I have to come on this show and talk about on a regular basis how there's just random acts of violence that you and I just can't prepare for, can't see it coming, can't predict it, can't really stay safe from it. We have to go out in public and we have to share a common space. We have to share society with psychopaths. Now, that's something you've been doing your entire life, but are we getting more psychopaths than we used to? Because the numbers don't bear that out. I think we're just hearing about every single scary story because, I mean, we kind of force it. This is the stuff that we pass along. And when I say we, I mean you, I mean me, I'm guilty too. Garrett over there in the booth, he's guilty of it too. This is the stuff we pass around. We find it riveting. We find it, I don't want to, it's not titillating, but it definitely gets our attention. We have a negative cognitivity bias wherein our brain just naturally pays more attention to stories that are negative, that are threatening. And it makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint. You know, you want to pay attention to the things that can hurt you, that can kill you. Got it. But in a time like this where we have no natural predators and we're not walking around in the forest or the jungle having to watch out for constant attacks, it's making us neurotic. It's making us kind of crazy over here. Because I see a lot of people acting like this is something new, or I see a lot of people acting like this is getting out of control. Was it ever in control? Or were you just not as plugged into every crazy thing that happened? Because that's what when I go look at the numbers and how it bears out, we're actually a little bit safer than we were when we were kids. I have to remind Miss Parker of that on a regular basis because I'm a little more freewheeling, Miss Parker, open of style of parenting. I mean, we live out in the middle of nowhere, so the walk to the nearest gas station, it's not that far, and I don't mind if the kids go by themselves. Miss Parker does, and so this is sort of the constant struggle to where in other situations she'll gripe about how this, you know, these younger kids were raised like sissies with their participation trophies and their helicopter parents, and I have to say, who's a helicopter parent? Only the other person's a helicopter parent. You're not a helicopter parent when you're scared for the kids to walk to the gas station. So actually, I have to go do research and show that we're safer than we were in the 80s and 90s when our parents let us just run around all over town with no cell phone, with no idea where we're at. Just be home by what? By the time the sun goes down if you live in the country, by the time the streetlights come on if you live in the city. I know both of your worlds. So it's actually safer now. So it can feel like we have more of these psychos in these psychotic events. But if it makes you feel any better, we're actually a little bit safer than we were. But really, it's just not that different. And I don't think it'll ever be that different. I think we're always going to have about 2% of the population that's just born complete psychopaths, at least sociopaths, as sprinkle in a little childhood abuse and trauma, and they'll quickly become psychopaths. But we're never going to totally shut this down. So don't run around saying, well, we just better give up our guns, or we just better give up some of these other rights that we have. No. Don't fall for that one, because that one happens a lot. It's always, you're always trading safety. You're always trading your rights for a little bit of promised safety, the illusion of safety it's never going to come. You're still going to be in danger, maybe even more, and you won't have your rights. So let's just hold on to them here. But the one that's got the media's attention and probably your attention because it's all over social media is what happened yesterday with the 4 people killed, another mass shooting. This was intended for the NFL headquarters in New York City, but the guy went to the wrong floor and he ended up shooting some people at another business, and 4 dead. And then he turns the gun on himself, and he doesn't shoot himself in the head. He shoots himself in the chest like Junior Seau did, probably for similar reasons. I haven't seen the note, but it's been reported that in the note, he blames the NFL for his mental troubles. He has self-diagnosed as CTE, chronic encephalopathy. I said it correctly. Don't Google me. But that's the one where if you get banged in the head a bunch of times, a la playing football, then it drives you nuts after a while and deteriorates your mental health. And you can't really be diagnosed with that until after you're dead. And then they saw your brain open and they look at the damage that's been done to your brain, and they find these little lesions or whatever that are kind of scattered amongst your brain. And so that's what his theory is. Now, his entree into football matches a lot of ours. It was high school football. I played high school football. You play high school football? Did your husband play high school football? Probably so. Did we all get CTE? Definitely not. I don't think so. I know I'm not a good example of someone who's mentally stable and all together, but most of the people that I played football with are completely normal, fully adjusted adults. So I don't know if that's it. CTE? How do you distinguish that and just a regular psychopath? How do you distinguish between that and the guy in Idaho that killed 4 people and just got sentenced to 4 life sentences on last Friday's show? Remember we were talking about that crazy Idaho guy and what's his motive? And we didn't really come up with anything other than he's a psycho and he wants to hurt people. And he doesn't have the same human connection that you and I do to each other. You know how hard it would be for you to chop someone's finger off? A psychopath could do it. A sociopath would do it if you paid him. A psychopath would pay you to let him do it. You understand the difference there? And so I think we might have a guy here that is at least a sociopath, probably a psychopath. And he has now killed a New York Police Department officer and 3 other people. Now, this just happened last night. He went into a skyscraper carrying a note in his pocket with the grievance clearly directed at the NFL. Said he suffered from CTE. He's a 27-year-old, grew up in California, was currently living in the Las Vegas area for a while, drove his car all the way to Park Avenue, went up in the office building and thought it was a good time to take the life of 4 of his fellow human beings. What's going on with this? Am I being naive? Am I being a little too Pollyannish? Or how worried are you about these psycho attacks? Because some of them are psycho attacks. Some of them are attacks that are coming from what doesn't seem to be like a psycho mentality, like psychopath, but just sort of a crazy, crazed mob mentality, like the Cincinnati Jazz Fest mob attacks. There was the crazy guy that went on the stabbing spree in Traverse City, Michigan over the weekend, stabbed 11 people. He got stopped by a good guy with a gun. We have the story of the hikers in Arkansas that were hiking with their 2 daughters. These 2 parents were. Some guy comes out and gets all stabby. Sounds like matches the psychopath. The 2 girls run away. They live. The parents die delaying the guy. We had the rash of trans shooters in the last couple years. The one in Colorado Springs, the one in Denver, the one in Aberdeen, the Nashville Christian School shooter, the Philly shooter, the shooter at Joel Osteen's church was a trans legal immigrant with Free Palestine written on the gun. What is going on? We've had the Free Palestine attacks where the 2 Jewish diplomats got shot outside the museum in D.C. We had the flame-throwing attack by a different guy. We had the Free Palestine activists running through people on Bourbon Street on New Year's Day in New Orleans. What is going on with this rash of seemingly just senseless psychopathic violence? And what do we do about it? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we'll hear some thoughts from former NYPD Lieutenant Commander Joe Cardinale. What do you do to keep yourself safe from violent criminals? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there. Welcome to the James Show. I'm your host, James Parker. You're listening to News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. How y'all doing? Did you play football? Did you get banged in the head quite a bit when you were growing up? I know I did. Are you a psycho killer now? Do you believe the motive of the guy who went and shot and killed 4 people last night in New York City? Let's get some insights from former NYPD Lieutenant Commander Joe Cardinale's back on the James Show. Welcome back on for the 1000th time. And as a guy who worked for the NYPD lost an officer yesterday. Your first reaction? So we have the guy go in, kills 4 people, kills himself. There's a note, and it has a supposed motive, according to reports, that he blames the NFL for his brain injury. How does that fly with you? Does that seem legit, or is this a psychopath that's just trying to find an excuse for the violence he wanted to do anyway? Well, we know that's a no because you can't be officially diagnosed until after you're dead and they saw your head open. Right. Yeah, I don't think there's really anything you can do until they do something illegal or something that either self harm or harm somebody else. We don't have the minority report in America, nor do I think we want to. So this is, I think that's the troubling part for everybody. How do you stop this before all these before they happen? I don't think you can. So, Joe, we're talking with Joe Cardinale, retired NYPD, former lieutenant commander over there. Well, let me give you a little pushback here because I know we agree like 99% of the time. But in a situation, I don't want to break the precedent to where it's okay to go and confiscate someone's guns because someone else has deemed them as mentally incompetent. Because I see that very slippery slope be falling into, oh, look, Parker doesn't believe in climate change. He's mentally unfit. Let's go take his guns. And then we got to kick in the door of the Parker household, and it'll be almost immediately misused on a long enough timeline. Well, in so many of these instances, Joe Cardinale, the mass shooter keeps on going until a good guy with the gun shows up, whether it's a cop or a citizen who happens to be carrying. I would much rather that to be the lesson going away. What do you do about these random psychos? Before I would do anything with gun confiscation, I would say this is just a good sign that good citizens need to gun up and be that guy that gets there first to minimize the damage that these people can do. Yeah. I hear you. All right, retired NYPD Lieutenant Commander Joe Cardinale. Sorry for the loss of one of your NYPD brothers, and thank you for being on the James Show again to help clear this up. All right, and look, I know like NYPD lost an officer, but DPD and FWPD and all the PDs around here, there's a sense of when you turn on the TV and you see one of your brethren, even though it's a distant cousin. That's something they have to go to work with on their mind too. Just like if I went to work today and there was 4 talk show hosts that have been shot and killed, that might be something I think about, even if it didn't happen in our own backyard. But let's talk about that. What do you do to minimize this? I don't like that gun confiscation stuff at all. But let's talk about that. Where am I wrong? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'll flesh out some of my solutions next on the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, homeowners. James Parker here for Blue Ribbon Roofing. Have you gotten your free inspection yet? I know you've probably heard some commercials before that I've done for them, and you're like, that is a good idea. I probably should do that. And then you didn't do it. Well, don't put it off now. You shouldn't really put off anything that takes less than a minute to do. There shouldn't be a to-do list with things that take about 45 seconds. And all I'm telling you is go to blueribbondfw.com. There's a phone number up at the top, and you just give it a call and say, I want the free inspection. If someone's in the office pick it up, they'll just go ahead and schedule it right there. Worst case scenario, you'll get a call back in a few minutes. But also, while you're there at blueribbondfw.com, check out some of the great 5-star reviews. There was another one from July 16th from Teresa. Blue Ribbon Roofing did an outstanding job replacing my very steep, huge roof. Arrived very early to beat the Texas heat and ended in the rain. Never slowed. I could not be more pleased with their service. So go get your roof checked out. If there's something wrong with it, they'll try and get it fixed. If you need help with the insurance process, they can definitely help you with that. In a couple weeks, I want to be reading your 5-star review up here at blueribbondfw.com. But it starts with you getting a schedule of that free roof inspection. Go to blueribbondfw.com. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. We have a troubling shooting that happened in New York City last night. And where it happened is the only part of New York City that I'm really familiar with, this sort of Midtown Manhattan thing. I'm not a well-traveled guy. I'm just from the middle of nowhere, East Texas, crawled out of a log cabin one day. But when I was working at the satellite radio station, we had to go up there for work quite a bit. And I would stay in a hotel that's actually about 6 blocks from where the shooting is. It's called the Flat Hotel, if you must know. And I would walk down and go to the Sirius studios that were cat a corner from Radio City Music Hall. And it didn't dawn on me growing up as just some idiot from the middle of nowhere that all these places are right next to each other. I could take you on about a 10-minute walk in this neighborhood, and we could see the what's it called? The Edison Theater? No. Ed Sullivan Theater, where the Late Show was, until Stephen Colbert ruined it. No, but that's a real place. You know, right across the street, if you turn around, it's the Bad Boy Entertainment building. You know, the one with P. Diddy? Oh, yeah, I know. And then you just walk a few blocks, you're in Times Square where all those lights are. You go 2 blocks to the, I guess that would be east, and you're in the building where it's Fox News and the Wall Street Journal. One building up from that is where I worked. One building up and across is Radio City Music Hall, and behind that they had the ice skating rink with the big Christmas tree. This is in that neighborhood. You go up a few more blocks and to the right 2 more blocks, and that's where this happened. And just in that little commute there, that little happy walk, you'd be going past the headquarters for ESPN, the headquarters for MSNBC, the headquarters for CNN, well, their New York studios. You would have seen all of that. You would have taken a right at St. Patrick's Cathedral, which shows up in so many movies and Opie and Anthony skits and things of that note. So this place is just landmark, headquarters, network, media outlet, something you've heard of, some movie company, it's an amazing place. And so it makes sense that the NFL's headquarters would be right there. But the motive for this is so suspect. And it feels very unsatisfying, just like when you figured out what the motive is for the Idaho guy. I don't want to say his name, but the one that just got convicted for killing 4 seemingly random people. And they're just telling you, hey, he's a psychopath. Yep, sometimes psychopaths get triggered. Well, that's not good enough. I'd like a little more of an explanation. And we need an explanation so we can what? Avoid it, plan for it, keep ourselves safe, maybe arrange the rules in society to minimize something like this. But you can't confront something if you don't even know what it is. And so let's just go through the little help that we have here. It's just a psychopath, and He got his psychopathy turned onto the NFL because he was blaming being banged around in high school for his mental problems as an adult. All right, well, let's talk about big picture here. How do we minimize the psychos? Well, here's the bad news. There's very little you can do. Some psychopaths and sociopaths are created. Some people are born fairly normal with, that basic human empathy, the human connection that we all share, or most of us share. But if you completely traumatize a kid, especially repeatedly, over and over and over, you can create a sociopath. You can create a psychopath. Or you can take someone that's a sociopath and turn them into psychopath. If someone's a sociopath and then you abuse them and cause them harm over and over and over as a child, that's the equilibrium they're going to seek out as an adult. And so we have some just fascinating statistics on where abuse comes from. We have some fascinating statistics on what does the best on raising kids to not be crazy people when they grow up or have these problems. Let me give you a couple of studies here. Children that are brought up in single mother homes versus their biological mother and father, 5 times more likely to commit suicide, 9 times more likely to drop out of high school, 10 times more likely to get addicted to drugs, 20 times more likely to end up in prison, 32 times more likely to run away from home. Fatherless boys are about twice as likely to have spent some time in jail before they reach the age of 30. And you see a lot of these shooters are Angry young fatherless men. Columbine, Sandy Hook, Buffalo, Uvalde. There's sort of a pattern going on there. So, okay, how do you encourage family formation? How about more specifically with government policy? Because that's what we're all looking for. Is there anything we can do? Anything we need to change? Any laws? Well, look at what destroyed the family unit. A lot of people point at welfare. A lot of people point at the child support laws and custody laws that almost encourage divorce rather than make it a last resort. I think a big one that no one likes to talk about because it's not politically popular, ending Social Security. Ending Social Security, what good would that do? Well, grandma and grandpa would probably have to move in with one of their kids. And there will be a kid. It used to be the most normal thing in the world up until about the time you were born. When you were a kid, you very likely had one of your grandparents in the house, some of your grandparents in the house, maybe mom and dad's parents in the house. You think we'd have so many of these gender issues if grandpa's in the living room every time he walks by? What do you think happens if he walks by in eye makeup? You think he's going to be confronted? You think there's going to be some serious conversations to be had? And that's not abusive. That's your family taking care of you. And then the other solution is something you can do personally. Until we do get all this family restoration happening, until we do get more kids being born back in wedlock than out of wedlock in some societies, what do you do in the meantime with all the psychopaths and the crazy people and the criminals that are being created? Stay strapped or get clapped. That's all. You know how that works. You just don't want to do it. You don't want to have to. You want to live in a world that doesn't require that. You want to live in a world that's safe and good guys with guns are just an anachronistic, polite thing of the past. We're not there yet. We live among psychopaths. We live among evil men who are intent on committing violence. And the only thing that stops an evil man intent on committing violence is a good man who's better skilled at violence. So go get a gun, learn how to use it, be able to protect yourself and the people around you, just in the tiny 0.0001% chance you're ever in a situation like this. I know that's not a lot you can do, but that's all you can do on an individual level. So do it. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, you're going to hear from a local urologist who's going to explain the Deion Sanders health situation next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. I'm your host, James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. A Texas sports legend had a interesting run-in with cancer. He seems to be taking it very well. But what does all this stuff mean? Deion Sanders had to deal with bladder cancer. This is what his doctor describes. My next guest is going to be a urologist that explains this in our language. But here it was at the press conference yesterday.
Or something we call very high risk non-muscle invasive bladder cancer. So we did discuss options. We discussed some options of treatment in the bladder, and we discussed bladder removal as well. Given his commitments to his family and to the team, elected to undergo a bladder removal. We performed a full robot-assisted laparoscopic bladder removal and creation of a new bladder. And I am pleased to report that the results from the surgery are that he is cured from the cancer.
All right, that's a lot of big words, but I heard cured in there, so that's generally a good thing. My next guest, Dr. Parth Shah, a urologist on the James Show. Explain to me what that means in regular language, the laparoscopic, robotic, whatever operation that he had. So they made a new a bladder out of part of his colon. That sounds so gross. Ugh. So Dr. Shaw, he now has to run around with a bag, so he can't control his flow, his start and stop. Oh, so since they took his bladder out, he doesn't know when he has to go. So how did this get detected in him? He said he was going to get scanned for something else and they accidentally found this. How do you find bladder cancer? Dr. Parshaw, it almost bothers me how attached emotionally I am to this guy. Just tell me, is Deion Sanders going to be okay? All right, Dr. Pars Shaw, thank you very much. We hadn't needed a urologist on the show before, but I'm glad we got you now. Exactly. That was his takeaway from the press conference yesterday, man. If you have any doubts, go get yourself checked out. And if you've never been checked out before and you are getting mature, as Dr. Parshaw said, go get checked out. Coming up next on The James Show, the economy's doing so good. How good is it? Bill Maher had to admit he was wrong on tariffs in the economy. And it'll kind of make you feel better to hear someone actually be contrite for 5 seconds in the media. That's next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker. Happy to tell you some good economic news. Now, stock market didn't do so good today, but it's been flirting around all-time highs here lately, setting a few records here and there over the last week or so. And you'll notice that you got a whole lot more headlines when the market was going down versus it going up. Remember when that was a hot topic of conversation? I got one of my monitors here on MSNBC. They're not talking about the economy. They're not talking about that at all. They're not talking about the stock markets. They're not talking about, because you remember the reports that were coming out. There was the first round of them in the sort of January, February, where the market topped off and started to dip down. And then there was another dip that happened in April when the tariff action, remember Liberation Day? And what were you being told? Donald Trump's ruining the economy. The economy's crashing. We're headed toward a recession. That's it. The economy's going to crash. Things are going to hell in a handbasket. And this isn't a macro story. This affects you. This ruins your retirement savings. You're not going to be able to retire. Are you getting the headlines? Are you getting the retractions now? 6 months later? Oh, we take it back. Sorry to scare the pants out of you back in January and February. Your retirement has more than recovered and grown since we predicted the opposite just 6 months ago. So it kind of bothers me that they get a pass for all their bad predictions. But hey, we've got a good economy. At least I can tell you that. But not only is the economy rocking along, there's a lot of optimism, like a little room left to grow over here. We just had the new trade deal that was announced with the EU this week. That's going to be huge. They're buying $750 billion worth of defense spending from us. Some of that's going to be donated to the cause in Ukraine. So that's fantastic for us. But I think what's even a bigger seesaw is when they also pledged to spend, again, this number got used twice, $750 billion worth of energy from the United States. So I think there's going to be more oil, natural gas, maybe some refined gasoline. But when they buy it from us, that means they're not going to buy it from Russia. And once we're getting along and we have the giant corridor, the giant conduit of military supplies, supply chain, now just in a straight line from the United States to the European Union, that isn't so going so well for Russia either. So these are economic wins that are going to have non-economic effects as far as world peace goes. There was a report today where Trump said he talked to Scott Bessent, and Scott Bessent said that the trade talks with China went well today. If we get a new trade deal with China, we can open up some of the world's biggest market, or now second biggest market, to India. That would be huge. Your unemployment rate, it's not at an all-time low, but historically speaking, this is lower than average. This is the happy place. We're going to get a new unemployment number. Usually that comes out on the first Friday of the month. And this Friday, August 1st, is going to be the first Friday of the month. I have seen when it's the first that they'll punt it to the next week if they don't get all the numbers in time. So we might get that number this Friday. I think we're going to get it next Friday. But also we have a couple of other big things that are happening this week that I wanted to get all this on the record. So after it happens, when I say, oh, I told you, I actually told you. So the Federal Reserve is having a meeting today and tomorrow. Tomorrow they're going to announce if they're going to lower the rate. Now, they're not expected to lower the rate after their 2-day meeting, but a FedWatch tool says there's a 97% chance that rates are going to remain the same. If there's a cut, look for the stock market to jump on that. But also, if they don't lower it now, the odds that they're going to lower it in their September meeting or maybe a couple times for the end of the year, that goes up. So expect some positive headwinds from that whenever it happens, if it happens. I don't know. These people expect that it's not going to happen. It's just going to stay the same. But Donald Trump's been hammering this guy, so we'll see if he responds to that. Also, tomorrow, we're expected to get the first number, the print on the second quarter GDP, the gross domestic product for the second 3 months. So April, May, and June, we're supposed to get that number tomorrow. Most people are expecting it to be positive. Atlanta Fed expects it to be positive. I don't care how big it is. The point is, if it is positive, then everyone that was predicting a recession 6 months ago will now have been proven wrong. So let me just start on the good note here because I got a good soundbite and I got a bad soundbite. I'm going to start with the good one because it makes me very happy to play this. Bill Maher gets a ton of credit on this show because even though I don't agree with him on a lot of political issues, he's not a hack. He's willing to admit when he was wrong. And he's one of the more sensible ones on Team Blue that, man, if y'all would listen to this guy, maybe I wouldn't have so many problems. But here he is on a recent podcast admitting that he was wrong about the Trump tariffs a few months ago.
I will always call it as I see it, no matter what it is, and I don't care who likes it or doesn't. That's my bond with the audience. It's worked for me pretty well. But it is, in a way harder to do. But just to take an example, tariffs. Now, I remember along with probably most people, was saying at the beginning, by the 4th of July, somebody had to think how the the economy was going to be tanked by then. And I was kind of like, well, that seems right to me, but that didn't happen. Now, it could happen tomorrow. I'm just saying that's reality. So let's work first from the reality of that, not from I just hate Donald Trump.
Yeah. Isn't that beautiful? Credit goes to Bill Maher for that. Coming up next on the James Show, some of these new trade deals that are announced. How will this affect you? A 15% tariff on all goods from the European Union. Is that going to cost you money? Is that going to cause the cost of certain items to go up? Find out next from Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law on the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. Now, when you see the headlines, hey, there's new trade deals that have been reached with some other country in Asia or some other country in South America or some other country in Africa. Or and here, the big one this week is the new trade deal with the European Union. Your first instinct should be, how does this affect me? Well, I mean, I'm pretty self-centered too. Let's ask my next guest, Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law. What do we know about this EU trade deal? How is this going to affect the average person listening, Michelle? Hey there. So when you look at what we buy from Europe, it's sort of the opposite of Asia. You know, in Asia, the stuff we get from them is like a T-shirt or a Happy Meal toy or some other thing that's made of plastic that's sold in Dollar General. The things we get from Europe are the big complex machines that make smaller machines, some rare pharmaceutical, an MRI scanning equipment. You know, we get the more complex, technologically advanced stuff from Europe. And so therefore, the more expensive stuff comes from Europe. So I think this is going to be a big one. It looks like we buy a lot of stuff in the manufacturing industry and pharmaceuticals and sort of high end stuff like that. So I don't think the EU deal will hurt the most people when they go to the grocery store or buying from the other side of Walmart. But talk about the businesses this will hurt. Right. Well, how does this work in reverse? We're talking with Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law. Does this open up a whole lot of new markets to American products that we previously didn't have access to? Right. Yeah, you know what? I'm really interested to see what happens. most specifically in the pharmaceutical realm, because we get so many from just pretty much Germany. That's the big one. And there are what, third, fourth biggest trading partners. It's like Mexico, Canada, China, and then Germany right after that. And a lot of that's because drugs. And then I think about who's listening to WBAP. And you might just want to keep an eye on your drug prices, maybe look for some alternatives or a generic from somewhere else. Or for me, I feel like that's the front leading thing that could affect most people listening is your prescriptions. Well, yeah, and just see what company it's coming from. Is it coming from Merck? Is it coming from Bayer? You may want to start looking at some alternatives. Michelle Schultz, keep an eye on that and let us know if something pops, and we'll pass it along. All right, this has been Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law. Speaking of the economy, what the heck did Jasmine Crockett say this time? Well, we're going to go back in time about 6 months and see what she said about the economy coming up next on The James Show. And of course, you'll get a good giggle out of it. 800 288 9227. This is News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. We're talking about the economy. It's doing pretty good. Why are you talking about that, James? It's not in the headlines. Well, I'm talking about it because it's not in the headlines. It should be in the headlines. You know, my IRA totally recovered from the little dip that it did in February and the bigger dip that it did in April, and it's put more on top of it. Stock market is around record closes. They just closed today, and it's not records all the way around, but still among record highs. And it's just kind of chaps my butt that it gets all kinds of headlines on the way down, but none on the way up. And they're clearly trying to just use reporting on the stock market and the economy as a whole as just a tool to separate Trump from his supporters. Todd Weatherford, you're on WBAP.
Yes.
Go.
Glad to be here. You know, I hear everybody talking about these tariffs and stuff and how bad they're going to be on the U.S., but this is way overdue, way overdue.
Explain.
And, just want to say one thing about like the iron, the steel, and the aluminum. We need to be recycling. We've got plenty of iron and plenty of aluminum right here in our own. We don't need to be buying from other countries. We've got plenty right here. We'll bring our manufacturing back to the United States and make America great again.
Okay, I mean, like, that sounds good, but recycling is actually less efficient than making aluminum from scratch. And recycling still requires, you know, the whole smelting process, which is what the other countries can do cheaper than we can because their labor is dirt cheap. So, I mean, that sounds good, but I'm not with you on that. I'm not a big fan of recycling. Well, I should say this. I'm indifferent to recycling. Recycling, when it happens naturally through the free market, awesome. This whole idea that we need to be recycling glass and paper and aluminum,
No.
it's just brain damage levels of dumb. Because
Yeah, no, I don't mean that. Yeah, I'm talking
okay.
about our precious resources.
Well, look,
So-
it's a little deeper than that. I don't want to be so reductive because look, we actually do have a shortage of iron on planet Earth, just like gold, iron. There's a few other things that are only in Earth's crust because it was part of meteors that hit us. And so we're running out of the good iron ore, and we're as far as what we found on Earth, we're down to sort of the second grade iron ore. We still have plenty to get by on for now, but at some point that's going to come to a head. Aluminum, however, is the most abundant metal in the Earth's crust. And so you can pretty much just dig up half the dirt in North America and mine it for aluminum or smelt it for aluminum. So we're never running out of aluminum. That's the dumbest thing we could recycle, except for maybe paper, because you can always grow more trees. That's the one thing we'll never run out of is paper, because you can always just make more. And then glass is like a little bit of soda and sand. So are we running out of sand on Earth anytime soon here?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
That'd be a big problem, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so that's why I'm not a big fan of recycling, you know, as something that should be pushed, especially by government. But there's real recycling that happens. Scrap yards are a worthy recycling endeavor. Why, how do I know? Because it doesn't have to be forced by government. You don't have to subsidize it, and you don't have to take money from me and give it to someone to make them recycle. So just, I don't know, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. The way to get to the bottom of these.
Misunderstanding me.
I
don't
do.
mean for the government to push it. You know, it just needs to be maybe put out there so the free market can take off. And when the iron prices when steel prices go up, the recycle prices go up at the recycle yards. So people are loading up their trailers and they're taking their old tractors and stuff in and stuff. Hey, they're cleaning up their yards. They're cleaning up America, right?
Yeah, well, look, that's the one thing I like about recycling. If you leave it to the private sector, is it serves a function if and only if it's actually needed. And so, you know, I also hear from people who make your argument that we need to keep our steel and aluminum capacity up to snuff for national security reasons. You know, we've always got to be able to make tanks, or we've always got to be able to, you know, have enough oil to run the tanks or the boats and stuff. And I mean, I kind of feel that too, but you know, there's some countries like France just has basically no oil. Well, are they surviving just fine? Do they have like national security issues? Are they being overrun by their neighbors because they don't have, you know, their own critical supply of a resource that they can't live without. No, they seem to be doing just fine. Japan's another one of those countries. It doesn't have any oil. So when people say, well, you've got to have this one specific commodity for national security's sake. No, there's a lot of countries that are surviving just fine, and they have zero of a very crucial commodity. So I don't know. I hate to make it more complex than it is, but I also hate for people to make it more reductive than it is. But it's a good chat to have.
I would agree with that.
All right.
To an extent.
All right. Well, good chat here, Todd, because I think a lot of other people are saying the same thing. And sometimes Miss Parker hits me with some of these things that I see in emails and Facebook messages and YouTube messages. And I feel like I should answer more of those, even though they don't really kind of fit in with the flow of what I was going to talk about anyway. I hope that helps a lot of other people who were thinking some of the same things Todd was just bringing up from Weatherford. All right, coming up next, what the heck did Jasmine Crockett say this time? It's about the economy. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. And to set up today's edition of What the Heck Did Jasmine Crockett Say This Time, we have to review a little bit of what's going on in the economy, because the economy's been rocking along now. You know, there was some hiccups at the beginning of the year, and when the tariff talk started to happen on Liberation Day, April 2nd. But since then, the markets have recovered everything they've lost. They've started making new highs. GDP growth is expected to be well into positive territory, and I think that number comes out tomorrow, which means we're not going to have been in a recession, even though there was a slight negative number for the first quarter GDP. We had a new trade deal with the EU and some other nations. Trade talks with China went well, as reported today. The unemployment rate is at a historic low, not an all-time low, but still, that's a happy number. 4.2, 4.3% is kind of a good place for it to be. We're going to get a new number next Friday on that. We may get a lower interest rate from the Federal Reserve tomorrow. Keep an eye out for that. It's expected to hold steady, but that's also a good sign. If he's holding steady, then he's not worried about it. And so in the face of Bill Maher actually coming clean and doing the adult, mature thing and admitting he was wrong, now we get to see who else is going to follow suit. Bill Maher gets a ton of credit for that. If you want to go back and you want to see what Kevin Hassett was saying, he's one of the economic advisors on the Trump team. And when the first quarter GDP number came out slightly negative, the first question, whoa, are we in a recession? Is there going to be a recession this year? And here he is, April 14th.
Kevin, real quick, are you expecting a recession this year?
100% not. 100% not. If you look at the jobs numbers, they're very, very strong. When I talk anecdotally to CEOs, I say things like, well, geez, is the uncertainty over tariffs looking like it's going to be a big drag? And they're saying things like, no, in terms of production, we're getting as much onshore as we can. And in terms of sales of foreign goods, people are buying as many as they can because they're worried about future tariffs. And so everything's through the roof, anecdotally, with the CEOs I've been talking to. And the hard data on jobs have been really, really good.
Okay, so it looks like tomorrow he's going to be proven right if there's a positive GDP number from the Fed on the second quarter. But if you want to go back, let's see what Jasmine was saying.
Jasmine Crockett, queen of the liberal tea.
Bleach blonde, bad built butch body, Governor Hot Wheels, and he is a hot ass mess, honey.
Queen of the liberal tea.
Jasmine Crockett, February 19th of this year, predicting a recession.
We are not in the business of giving out money. And honestly, I don't know what $5,000 will do for you if you are unable to find a job, because I am telling people we are headed towards a recession because the United States government is the 15th largest employer in the world. And so firing those that work for the federal government isn't going to necessarily create new jobs in private industry. In fact, Southwest Airlines, based in my district, just announced for the very first time in its entire existence that they are doing a layoff of approximately 15% of their workforce. If you pay attention, the signs are there. And I'm not telling you to be an alarmist. I'm telling you because I want to be honest with the American people. And my background, believe it or not, I was a business major, and none of this looks good for us right now.
There you go. It should be a big number that's going to be a big headline tomorrow, but it's not going to be because it's going to be too positive. It just doesn't fit the narrative. And Jasmine Crockett's also making some news today. The Atlantic dropped a profile on Jasmine Crockett, the congressional representative for the district that I'm sitting in right now. Now, the Atlantic, it's not a conservative, Team Red, libertarian, pro-America outlet. It's dedicated Team Blue. And you would think a profile from a Team Blue outlet on a Team Blue member would necessarily be glowing. She wouldn't have anything to worry about. But something happened. The Atlantic explains in their piece today that they were going through the regular process that happens when you profile someone. You go and you sit them down for an interview and you record it. And you take notes and you get their story and you ask them some questions about whatever the topics of the day are. And then in the profile, you go talk to some of the people that she mentioned. If she mentions a law professor, you go try and run it by them and get a comment from them too. If she mentions a political opponent, you give them a chance to comment. And so many times when you hear or read an article, so-and-so declined to request to comment, that's what that's from. They're just letting you know they at least gave them a chance to say something or to add something or to confirm something or to counter something, to dispel things that they didn't find factual or correct. Well, Jasmine Crockett's team was getting some calls from some of their, underlings in the House of Representatives. A lot of them know each other. And if you're an underling, when you go to these parties where congressmen are hanging out, the congressmen meet the congressmen, the underlings meet the underlings. And the underlings were talking, and Jasmine found out that some of these people who were, sharing the House Oversight Committee with her, that were working on her with other projects, that were somehow acquainted with her in the House of Representatives or in law school or some of these other stories that came up, The Atlantic was going and interviewing them and asking them about what Jasmine Crockett said. So Jasmine Crockett didn't like that. And here's what they had to stick toward the end of the profile on Jasmine Crockett in The Atlantic today. This is one of the last paragraphs. It says, Crockett said that people are free to disagree with her communication style, but that she was elected to speak up for the people that I represent. As for her colleagues, 4 days before this story was published, Crockett called me to express frustration that I had reached out to so many House members without telling her first. She told me, and this in quotes, shutting down the profile and revoking all permissions. For those of you not familiar with media, that's not how that works. You don't get to say, I changed my mind. You're not going to get to write this profile about me. I'll write whatever profile I want, lady. You have no mechanism of control over what I'm about to publish. As long as what I publish is true or believed to be true or a reasonable person would think it's true. So no, who cares if you revoke all permissions? It's too late. And you don't have the power to shut down the profile. So that's adorable if she thinks that's how it works. However, why would she think that's how it works? Because The Atlantic is a dedicated Team Blue media outlet. And you can't blame her. I don't blame her for 1 second for thinking that's how it works, because it's been the mission of most media outlets to do anything and everything it takes to help Team Blue beat Team Red. And they will bend over backwards and ignore huge stories if it helps Team Blue. They will magnify ant-sized stories if it helps Team Blue. They will change the narrative. They will modify facts. They will ignore very important traits in one story while highlighting them in other stories, all to serve the mission of Team Blue. So you can't really falter for thinking that they would say, oh, well, if this isn't going to be good for the cause, then I guess we've got to just shut this profile down. All of our permissions have been revoked. What do you want us to do? Nope, sorry. Doesn't work like that. I know you wish it did, but it doesn't. All right, coming up to the Pavilion at Toyota Music Factory, the Lost 80s Live Tour is coming. They're going to be here August 17th, featuring a flock of seagulls, general public, Big Country, the Vapors, and more. Get tickets, information, a full lineup at livenation.com. Or if you want to try and win a pair of tickets from us here at WBAP, you can text the word LOST, like for the Lost 80s Live Tour. Text the word LOST, LOST, to the same phone number you can call in with, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Try and win a pair from us. All right, coming up next, the follow-up to the Sydney Sweeney ad for American Eagle, being called Nazi propaganda. More on that continuing story next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. And I love doing the show. I am so dedicated to you, the listener of the James Show, that I watched that Sydney Sweeney ad at least 100 times just to make sure I didn't miss any detail. And I didn't find any racism in there. I didn't find any Nazis in there. I didn't find any swastikas. There weren't any swastikas in there. There wasn't the Iron Cross or the Iron Eagle, or didn't see anything in there. There wasn't any of the side supporting cast from Inglourious Bastards. Nothing. But some people saw the ad that says Sydney Sweeney has great genes, or Sydney Sweeney has good genes. And I get the double entendre here, but I think you're giving just men generally too much credit if you think that this is some sort of dog whistle for Nazi propaganda. Because when I first saw the ad, because I saw the ad before I saw the complaints about the ad, and I thought, oh, Sydney Sweeney has good genes. Like jeans like you wear, but also jeans like Genes. And not in the fact that she's part of some master race, but in the fact that she is absolutely gorgeous. And she just does have a nice little blueprint in her genetic profile that, as long as you work hard and stay in school, you're going to be an attractive woman when you grow up. I thought it was a double entendre because men are shallow pigs who are so concerned with how a female looks. But no, you got to act like this is some sort of Nazi dog whistle. Even if I was a Nazi, I would bristle if that was in my jeans ad. Can we just leave politics out of this? I'm just trying to look at a hot chick. You don't have to throw in the Nazi propaganda. Can I just look at Sydney Sweeney be beautiful for 15 or 30 seconds? But this story just becomes twice as absurd when you put it in the context of the other stories that are happening in real time. It's not like I'm cherry picking through the span of time stories that make my point. We could just look at some of the biggest headlines of the day. So some people saw racism, and not just racism, the most extreme form of racism, Nazism, genetics, eugenics in the Sydney Sweeney ad. And it ruined their day. This is a influencer of color doing a duet, a side-by-side of the Sydney Sweeney ad. And she's concerned. She's crashing out over here saying, well, I guess we're going to get hung in the streets now. Sydney Sweeney made a good jeans ad.
Yep, that got me too. And I don't know why. Maybe because it's just so blatant. I keep thinking that people just are not going to believe us until we're hung out there. But then even then, I feel like they'll be like, oh, no. Kind of like they are with.
Yeah, she's having a hard time. Baby, nobody wants to hang you. Nobody's going to hang you. We don't have secret white people meetings where we're like, can we start hanging them again? Wouldn't that be great? Because we didn't hang you. The Democrats hung you. A subset of white America hung you. They're called Democrats. You don't have to worry about them. The second they stopped doing it, the specter and the threat of you being hung went away. We didn't pick up the mantle and run with it. So that's all in the past. What are you talking about? And what does the word blatant mean to you? She's like, that's what bothers her, is it's so blatant. Hang on.
Yep, that got me too. And I don't know why. Maybe because it's just so blatant.
If it was blatant, wouldn't there be a swastika in there? Would there be a double entendre? Would you be calling it a dog whistle if it was blatant? Isn't dog whistle the opposite of blatant? And you're crying over this? So why is she crying? What is her specific stated? Just go ahead and answer the question. Why is she crying? Why? Because racism upsets her. Seeing people judged based on the color of their skin, seeing people being hated on for the color of skin, that upsets her. And she's not selectively being controlled by the media and being told what to hate. She would hate all racism, no matter who it was against or who was perpetrating it. All racism is ugly, right? No, that's not it at all. Does she have any, I don't have to go through her Twitter to know the answer to this. Is any time in her Twitter, is she crying over racism that was directed at white people? Is she crying over the white people that got beat? The 60-year-old white woman that got knocked unconscious, just trying to walk back to her car after the Cincinnati Jazz Festival this weekend. Did you see that video? Not worried about that? Not calling for hate crime charge? You don't, is that a dog whistle? When a mob of people of one color beat up a handful of, what was it, like 3-4 people that just got absolutely stomped in the street in Cincinnati with a bunch of people just hooting and hollering and filming. Did you see racism there or not? No? That's weird. You didn't see racism there, huh? Did you see racism in the shooting that happened yesterday in New York City? Did you see racism like in CNN? Did you hear CNN call him a white guy? Were you concerned about, the important racial narrative that's happening in America when CNN gets it wrong? Check this out, just so you can hear it yourself. This was CNN reacting to this at about 6:30 our time yesterday.
At any given time.
All right. So, Brian, stay with us. The former deputy director of the FBI, Andy McCabe, is with us as well. And Andy, I just want to ask you, you talk about a 44-story building, as Brian is reporting. And what John Miller just said, there were a few things that really stood out there. Among them that they do know what he looks like. Sunglasses, mustache, male, possibly white. And that they were already able.
So, going forward, are you going to call him black, or does race only matter if it fits the narrative and you don't want to highlight it going forward if, it makes Team Blue look bad or it ruins the narrative? Then again, we go back to the same thing that I've been saying over and over and over. Is this white rural rage? You were told by MSNBC, white rural rage coming around the corner. That's what they were telling you in February of last year. No, didn't hear that. So race is the most important thing in the world if it fits the narrative. If it doesn't, totally ignored. In fact, let's just bury the story and pretend it didn't happen. If you're outraged over a Sydney Sweeney, air quote, dog whistle ad, but you're not outraged at the Cincinnati beating, why not? Why not? If you were happy to highlight the race of the New York City shooter when you thought it was a white guy, but you've since dropped that descriptor since, why is that? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that one, but you're welcome to try. Coming up next, you may not have noticed, but we've had an unusually cool summer this year, and you're really going to enjoy listening to the media have to report on it. It's like making my 9-year-old daughter write a report on how vegetables are awesome. That's coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there. Sorry to interrupt your favorite saxophone solo. This is the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. In local news, a couple cool things are happening. For one thing, tomorrow morning, Good Morning America, ABC, they're going to be in the Dallas area. They're going to be at the South Lake location of the Dallas-based chain La La Land Kind Cafe. So if you're up there in the South Lake area, you know where that's at. Maybe you can stop by. Do me a favor, hold up a sign that says James Show Rules or WBAP or James is awesome or the James Show sucks. I'll take that. Just that'd be cool if you got it on Good Morning America. Good, bad, indifferent. Just I don't care if you're talking good about me or bad about me. Just talk about me. So that's happening. But also in what's kind of fantastic news, you may not have noticed this, but we're having an unusually cool summer. Oh, really? I don't know. James feels hot as hell. Well, we're not having a cool summer, but compared to the summers that we usually have around here, this is not the norm. This is below the norm. Right now, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, still below 100 degrees. Now, it becomes more fun when you find the media around here having to write about it. And, they're dedicated lefty. And so having them write about how cool the summer is, oh, my goodness, that's got to be awful. That's like making my 9-year-old daughter write about how great vegetables are. You can tell it's not going to be a genuine article, even though that's the assignment. That's the homework. That's what you got to say to get paid. It's going to be a grudging article. So I go to Dallas Morning News, and I'm not going to give you the name of the author, but I think it's a local girl. But she says, in the last 3 years, the Metroplex got its first triple-digit day in mid to late June. Oh, well, as it stands right now, we haven't had our first 100-degree day, and here it is. We're almost through July. Now, that's fantastic. She also points out, rightfully so, that in 2022, from the first 100-degree day to the last 100-degree day, almost 70% of those days got to 100 degrees. But you compare that to what's going on in 2025, we still haven't had a 100-degree day yet. The historical average for the milestone here in DFW is July 1st. Wow. So not only have we not had a 100-degree day, we're a month later than we usually are, even if we had our first 100-degree day tomorrow. Now, we might, you hear the heat index, which I don't believe is a thing. Heat index is just something people make up so they can report a bigger number. But as it stands right now, 97 degrees, and it looks like it's going to drop from here. I see a 100-degree day forecasted for tomorrow. So we may not make it till August, but making it to July 30th, when the historic norm for your first 100-degree day in Dallas-Fort Worth is July 1st, that's pretty incredible. The last year where we had 0 days at or above 100 was 1973. But the Dallas Morning News, in a fit of honesty here, added that several years in the 90s and 2000s, the aughts, had 5 or fewer days at 100 degrees. So let's just keep an eye on this. When we do get to 100 degrees, how long is this going to last? Is this going to be a couple of days and then it goes away, never to be seen again? Is it going to be the situation where it's going to be almost every day in August? The majority of days in August are going to be 100 degrees. Are we still going to have 100-degree days well into September? Which I think we did in 2023. I remember that one lasted for a long time. And that's one of the frustrating parts about being connected to social media when you live here in Texas, is people start posting pictures of like the leaves changing colors and, oh, it's finally September and things are cooling off. I'm like, oh, not around here. It's still 90-something degrees and miserable. But they have to come up with reasons why. Why are we having cooler days in North Texas than otherwise? Well, we're getting a little more water. We're getting a little more rain than we usually do. And one of the climatologists quoted in the article says, all the energy that could have gone into raising temperatures goes into evaporating water. That's interesting. Well, it's not in this article. the term climate change. Huh. That's so weird. When we're talking about not like the weather of the day, but long-standing historic weather patterns over a long span of time, that meets the definition of climate. And if it was really hot, certainly you guys would bring up climate change. If it was intemperate, or if it was wild weather, if it was stormy weather, if there was tornadoes or hurricanes or floods, gets brought up. But not if it's cooler than normal. That's so weird. It's almost like how they treat anything that doesn't fit the narrative. Remember the segment we just had? Yeah, they do that for everything. They do that for race relations. They do that for economics. Now they do it for the weather/climate. It never stops with these people. So if you want to have a fun read, maybe you can go check that out. You don't have to, but I don't know why I enjoy this so much. I think it's because if you get lied to constantly about the weather and the climate change for the last 25, 30 years, really the entirety of your life, I think maybe I feel like these people have earned it. But then I also remember, James, when you were in your early 20s, when you just got spit out of college, you believed in this stuff too. So I try and like sort of tamper my enthusiasm to kick these people and make fun of them. And so I think I just enjoy watching them go through it, because you can tell whoever's writing this is going through it. They're like, how do I keep believing what I'm believing in the face of all this evidence, this science is in front of my face? And it's like, no, I still think the weather's out of control, just not this year. And I still think overall we've got to start eating bugs to fix the weather. Or we've got to start using solar panels or electric cars, and that'll fix it. And it's still an emergency, I swear. We need to take over everything in the economy, from oil to the major means of production, but just not right now. It's not that crazy. This is great. All right, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227 if you have anything you want to add to the weather talk here. Coming up next on The James Show, this is so crazy. UT Dallas is dropping 2 sports due to budget constraints. I have that, and I also want to talk about this viral video that you keep sending me about the WNBA player that she lost her wig during a game. And I mean, I guess it's kind of funny, but I'm going to explain to you why I didn't bring that up until 18 people sent it to me. And I'm going to tell you why it's not funny to me. And it's not that I'm offended or anything. It's just, I'll explain next. Somewhat of a sports segment coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Are you enjoying the unusually cool summer here in Texas? We'll talk about that. And I have a couple of sort of sports updates coming up. But to the phones we go. Bill, Greenville, you're on WBAP. Go.
Good afternoon, James. We may not have reached 100 yet in Dallas, but it's about to get hot. As soon as they put those Sydney Sweeney jeans ads up on some billboards around here, we're going to be cooking with gas.
I know, right? And it's almost like you've totally misunderstand the dirtbag nature of the average American man. The ads were meant for us, but not because we're Nazis, damn it. It's because we like Sydney Sweeney. That's it. We're animals. We're thinking about sex, not racism, okay? Racism occupies about 0.01% of the average American man's brain. For the wokest, it's probably 90% of your brain. We get it. But for the rest of us, we were thinking sex, not racial genocide. Yes, psycho people.
Yeah, Brad Barton's going to have to alter his forecast if they put some of those billboards up.
Oh, yeah. Temperature goes up every time the ad comes on in this room. That's for sure. Great joke, Bill, but you're actually making a valid point in the fact that the dog whistle was about sex, you idiots, not Nazis. No one has a secret dog whistle fantasy about Hitler anyway, except for you people. Steve, Fort Worth, you're on WBAP.
Hi, James. Is it me?
Yeah, it's Steve. Go.
Oh, cool. I was reading my favorite news source today, other than you, of course, not the Bee, and they mentioned that the head of the EPA was going to remove or discount the study of climate change that's been cited by all of the climate goofs since 2009, and he was going to remove it from the whatever you call it, where they
Federal Registry. Yeah, I saw that earlier. I don't think these go far enough. I think every mention of climate change or global warming should not only be repealed, every regulation that's based on that should be repealed too. And it's
absolutely.
So, do you know what I mean when I say cafe standards? Is that a universal term, or is that just something talk radio show hosts know? Cafe standards. Does that ring a bell?
I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, so that's the standards on the automobile efficiency. So if you're selling a fleet of cars, they have to average across the entire fleet something ridiculous like 33 miles a gallon. And if you don't make it to that number, then you have to pay some sort of fee or fine or tax or whatever it's called. And so that's why starting in the 90s, your bumpers were no longer made out of steel. They started being made out of plastic. So when you bump into something, it just crumples into a bazillion pieces instead of you bounce off it harmlessly. And there may be like a little nick in your chrome or whatever. But they had to make cars artificially lighter than they otherwise would be, and safety be damned, in order to meet the CAFE standards. And that was actually made in the 70s before we believed in global warming. That was concocted because of the OPEC oil embargo. And so
actually in the 70s, we believed that there was going to be a new ice age coming in the 2000s. Just saying.
Right. So in the 70s, when we believed in global cooling, but there was an oil embargo from OPEC, we thought, well, we can make government incentivize cars to be more fuel efficient, so we'll use less gas. We'll be less dependent on these cartels and these evil people on the other side of the planet, and so CAFE standards are a good thing. Well, we are now more friendly with Saudi Arabia. There's no more oil embargoes. OPEC's not a problem. We can make enough oil for our damn selves. But now we continue the CAFE standards on the false premise of global warming. Oh, well, we've got to use less gas because CO2 is going to kill us all and, contributes to global warming. So it seems like the government always just wanted to take control of the car industry. They just changed the predicate for it from the OPEC oil embargo to the 70s to global warming. Now, all that stuff needs to go. Everything that's tied to global warming. I want my 100-watt light bulb back. You remember how we used to be able to choose whatever light bulb we want? We lost light bulb choice.
Should I say preach it, brother? Hey, before I give up the line, can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
Yesterday, you were talking about the Sweeney girl, and I forgot what her name was, and I went home and I was telling my wife about it. But what I do remember was you had a Freudian slip and you called her Sexy Sweeney. I laughed so hard.
Oh, man. Yeah. That
Thanks for your time, James.
that was an accidental burst of honesty if I called her Sexy Sweeney, because she is not ugly. I don't know if y'all have seen her before. She is not ugly at all. A couple things though from the sports front. Number one, did you see the because people send me this stuff. I know they don't do this, or maybe your friends do this to you. But there was a game between two teams, I don't know, WNBA, and some girl was trying to play defense against another chick and swiping at her and missed the ball. Instead, caught one of her braids and ended up pulling her wig off. Here's the audio from when it happened.
It bounced around a lot, but at the end, it went through the rim. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! She gonna go head to the back. Oh no!
Okay, so she ran through the tunnel. She's running back
Timeout called.
to the locker room to put her wig back on.
Proper to deal with the malfunction.
I mean, and I guess that's funny, and I get it that that's not something that's ever happened during the NBA. No guy's ever lost their toupee, or have they? I mean, would we? I guess that would make the highlight. I haven't seen it. But I'm not surprised. In fact, I don't even think it's funny. Why do I not think it's funny? I kind of assume that happened every once in a while. Anyway, that doesn't happen like once a game. And so my only explanation for that is some of y'all didn't go to a diverse school growing up. I grew up in the middle of nowhere. And where I'm from, I'm a minority. Texas is a majority minority state anyway. Whites aren't the majority of the population here. But in certain school districts, you can be a pretty solid minority. I saw wigs getting snatched off someone's head about once a month, kindergarten through 12th grade. So no, that's not funny to me. But if you're sending me this picture or this video, I want to ask you, did you just go to school with a bunch of white people? Or maybe it was whites and Hispanics? Because my dad was born and raised in El Paso, and so he didn't really even know a black person growing up. It was just mostly Hispanics and a few white people thrown in there, so he might think that's funny. But no, I mean, look, I don't want to discourage you from sending me videos that you think are funny. I don't, begrudge you if you sent me this video. Just wanted to let you know I'm not ignoring you. I just didn't think it was funny, and I guess that's why. But coming up next, another sort of sports story where UT Dallas is getting rid of a couple of sports due to budget constraints. Bro, y'all need to get rid of all of them. And as a sports fan, that's really hard to say, but I'll explain next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. Sports fans, you may be devastated to learn that UT Dallas has discontinued men's and women's indoor and outdoor track and field and men's and women's cross country. Somehow the university should be able to pick up the pieces and continue, but it's going to be tough. I understand. Actually, no, I don't. I don't understand at all. And when I tease this, Smacky over here on YouTube had the perfect comment. He says, rolling on the floor laughing, ROFL. No one goes to UTD for the sports. It's an international exchange student hub. Well, you're half right. No one goes to UTD for sports. Or only the athletes playing the sports go to UTD for the sports. No one's going to the games. No one cares. Y'all don't sell a bunch of merch. You're not on ESPN on Saturdays. And you know what? That's okay. And I just feel like I have to preface this by saying I am one of the biggest football fans on planet Earth. I grew up a good little East Texas boy where on Thursdays you'd go to the football game and it was either the 8th grade A and B team playing at home or is the JV and freshman team playing at home. You know, they were the opposite of whatever the varsity was doing. And then Fridays, you'd go to that varsity game whenever it was. Saturdays, well, that was for the college players. Sundays, that was for the pros. Mondays for Monday Night Football. Man, we had football every day of the week except for what? Tuesday and Wednesday? We're about to be doing that again. And so few people have seen more football than I have, even in America. Few people have played more football than I have, even in America. But something strange happened to me where I thought I was in a society and a culture and a lifestyle that was just so ingrained in football. And I lived, breathed, ate football when I was growing up. When I went to college at ETBU, East Texas Baptist University, way out in the middle of nowhere, there's Bug Tussle, and then the next on I-20 is Hooterville, and then the next one is Petticoat Junction. So I went to college in Petticoat Junction. At the time I was going there, ETBU did not have a football team, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I've never been in this situation. I've always had like a close tie to a football team, and you know, there was your middle school team, and there was your high school team, and you had your favorite college, and then there was the Cowboys on Sunday. And what am I supposed to do with this giant gaping hole in my life that used to be filled with football? And you know what I had to do? Nothing. Actually, it was just like the off season, but year round, and I was shocked that I didn't miss it. And that was so hard for me to admit as someone who thought football was one of the most important things in life. Yeah, of course, academics and, you know, going to church and finding love and your family and all that. It's important too, but, you know, not like the real thing, not like football. But I didn't miss it. In fact, I started to wonder why I put so much time and effort and thought and energy into watching other people play a sport as it is. Why did anyone care when I played? Why would anyone want to watch me? And so I actually realized that sports isn't that important. You know what's important? Your damn grades, idiot. Who cares if you have a football team or not? You're going into a giant amount of debt to hopefully get a skill set that can pay off not only that debt, but the giant family you wish to incur, because Miss Parker and our 4 children are not free.
Hi, Miss Parker.
And when I had football, just that whole rug pulled out from under me, I kind of did like a little etch-a-sketch in my brain where I reassessed my priorities, and football was way lower on that priority list in adulthood. In fact, I played sports in college. When I first went to ETBU, I played soccer. And after 2 years of that, you kind of look around, you're like, what am I doing? I'm not going to go pro. No one cares. I'm not on TV. It's just moms and girlfriends in the stands. What am I doing? Why do I care about, why does anybody care about sports this much? And so I would consider myself a sports fan, but I don't spend a whole lot of time watching other people play sports. I do watch the Dallas Cowboys if they're good. Once they lose, 8 or 9 games, I'm pretty much out. And I might pick it back up in the playoffs or the Super Bowl. But I got news for you. No college needs sports. And sports in these smaller colleges, like a UTD, like a DBU, like an Austin College, these are all just wastes of time and resources. Not only do we not need them, we need to get rid of them. And one of the ugly things that I don't think is going to be easy to pry away from the culture that we've created around it is college football is this weird mutant animal that is not good for society as a whole. We are not supposed to have colleges be the substitute for the minor leagues of a major American sport. What baseball does is fine. They have a minor league, and if they need to, have a farm system where they develop players to pull up players, or players can go after college to finish their development, that's what football needs. But this whole thing where the minor leagues for the NFL, the feeder league for the NFL, is played in government stadiums, on government campuses, with government employees. And did you know the highest paid government employee in most states is a head football coach at their biggest university? Why are we spending so much time on this? Why are we wearing Texas A&M and Texas Longhorns and SMU and TCU shirts, but we only care about the sports, not the academics? Do you even know what's going on in the academics? Do you even know what their math team is doing? Do you even know what their scores are? Do you even know how they're performing as a college? They're not supposed to be a subsidiary to fill your sports fandom. And it's gross that it's so tied in with government. And you look at football as a whole and this whole thing, like, I like football, you like football, it's big. But how much of this is just being pushed at taxpayer expense? All the college stadiums pretty much are taxpayer-funded monstrosities. How much did the people of Arlington have to pay for Jerry's World over there? How many cities and how many states are subsidizing by the billions these sports stadiums to make these things grander and more glorious than they otherwise would be? What is so important about football that we have to spend billions in tax dollars on it? Can we either get that money back or, God forbid, let the college spend it on education? And I know there's a handful of sports teams that support themselves in the college realm, but that's only for like the top maybe 50 football programs. All the rest of these sports are money losers. We need to start letting go of how important we think sports are in adulthood, and that includes colleges. I know I'm not going to convince you today, but just think about that, and we'll have this conversation again next time sports and economics overlaps. Coming up next, the Mark Levin Show. In the meantime, if you need more James Show action, go check out the podcast. My numbers are looking pretty good, but I could always use more. I'm about to go put that up right now. I'm James Parker. This has been the James Show on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.